The night was quiet on Earth when Ethan Vale received the message that would change his life. A distant uncle he had never met had passed away, leaving him ownership of an old mining station on planet Rios, a world long forgotten by most humans. The message was short, written in cold legal tone, but one line stood out. "You are now the rightful heir of Site 9. Be cautious. Do not go too deep." Ethan stared at those words again and again. He was a simple man, an engineer who fixed cargo drones for a living. He had never owned anything before, much less a whole mine on another planet. Curiosity burned in him stronger than fear. Within days, he packed his tools and boarded a supply ship heading for Rios. The planet looked dead from orbit. Brown dust storms, silent mountains, and a sky the color of rust. The mining outpost was even worse. Half of it was buried under sand and cracked rock. No life, no sound. Just the endless hum of the wind. Ethan stepped out in his suit, his boots sinking into the soft dust. The metal sign above the main gate still flickered faintly. Vale Mining Company, established 2183. His family name. But his family never told him about this place. Why? Inside the control room, everything was frozen in time. Old terminals blinked weakly when he powered the generators. The logs were corrupted, but one message survived on the main screen. "She still dreams below. Do not disturb her," he frowned. "She? Who is she?" The message was dated 312 years ago. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The wind outside howled like a whispering voice. He sat alone by the flickering light of the console, reading through fragments of data. The deeper he dug, the stranger it became. References to biological containment, energy restraints, and subject preservation. And always the same code name repeated, Lyra. A faint vibration shook the floor. He turned on his scanner, life signal detected. Deep underground, far beneath the old tunnels. For a moment he thought it was a glitch, but the signal pulsed again, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. He grabbed his lamp and walked into the main shaft. The tunnels were long, narrow, and filled with the smell of metal and dust. His footsteps echoed like he wasn't alone. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, glowing faintly when his light passed over them. Alien writing, not human. A soft humming sound started as he moved deeper. The air grew warm and the ground shimmered with faint blue light. He reached a large metal door half buried under stone, sealed by ancient locks. Above it, more alien letters were etched, but beside them, someone had written in English long ago, "Do not open the chamber of chains." Ethan's heart pounded. He hesitated, then placed his hand on the console. The panel flickered, scanned his DNA, and beeped. The door hissed open. Inside was a circular chamber filled with mist and dim blue light. At the center stood a transparent pod surrounded by floating machines. And inside that pod he saw her, a woman, not human. Her skin glowed faint silver, her hair like liquid white gold flowing around her face. She wore strange bands of light around her wrists and ankles, connected by glowing chains that pulsed faintly like living veins of energy. Her eyes were closed, but her chest rose and fell. Slow, calm, alive. Ethan stood frozen. His throat went dry. He whispered, "Who are you?" The console beside him came to life. Lines of alien code scrolled, then translated into broken English. Subject Lyra, last guardian. Status, stasis. Awaiting command from human keyholder. Ethan's hand trembled. He looked down at the glowing mark that had appeared on his wrist when the door opened. It matched the symbol above the pod. Human keyholder, he muttered. "That's me?" As if hearing his words, the pod's light flickered. The air crackled with energy. Then slowly her eyes opened. They were the color of the storm, bright silver with faint blue lightning inside. She blinked once, confused, then focused on him. Her lips parted, dry but graceful. Her voice, soft as music, echoed through the chamber. "You came. You finally came." Ethan stepped back, startled. "You can speak English?" She tilted her head slightly. "It's been a long time. The stars have changed. The air smells different. Tell me, human, are the chains still strong?" Ethan didn't understand. "What chains?" She lowered her gaze to her wrists. The glowing bands pulsed painfully. "They feed on time, on silence. Only a human's touch can break them." He stepped closer carefully. "You mean, you've been trapped here? For how long?" Her eyes met his again. Since before your kind learned to walk the stars. The machines around her began to hum faster, reacting to her voice. Ethan reached out, his hand hovering over the chain of light, but the moment his fingers touched it, a burst of energy struck him backward. His body hit the wall. Pain shot through his arm. She gasped, her body shivering as if she felt the same pain. Their eyes locked across the room. Two strangers connected by something neither understood. "Don't touch the bindings again," she said softly. "Until you are ready," Ethan groaned, standing slowly. "Ready for what?" Her voice trembled with something between hope and fear. "To end my curse? Or start yours?" The lights dimmed. The hum faded. Silence filled the chamber again. Ethan looked at her through the glass, his heart racing. He didn't know who she was or what she meant, but one thing was certain. He couldn't leave her there. As he turned to leave, a small screen near the door flickered on. It showed an old message, his uncle's voice weak and fading. "If you're hearing this, Ethan, she's real. Don't make the same mistake I did. Once you free her, there's no turning back." Ethan stared at the frozen image of his uncle's face, then back at the sleeping alien girl. Outside, thunder rolled across the barren sky of Rios, and deep beneath the mine, something ancient began to stir. The next morning, Ethan couldn't shake the image of her eyes, silver, glowing, alive. He told himself it was all a dream, that the woman in the pod was just an old alien experiment, but deep down he knew better. She felt real. Her voice still echoed in his mind. He returned to the chamber, flashlight in hand. The dust had settled, but the pod still glowed faintly in the dark. She was still there, motionless, perfect, and bound. The machines around her had gone silent except for one small screen pulsing with faint blue text. Energy decay detected. Subject life signs unstable. Ethan's stomach twisted. He didn't know what these machines were, but if she died here, he couldn't explain why, but he didn't want that to happen. He placed his palm on the pod's side. "Hey," he whispered. "Can you hear me?" The faintest shimmer passed through the air. Her eyelids fluttered. Then, without warning, the glass cracked open, splitting down the center. Cold mist spilled out across the floor. The smell of old air and metal filled the chamber. Lyra's chest rose sharply. She gasped like someone waking from drowning. The chains flared bright, reacting to her sudden movement. Sparks jumped from her wrists. Ethan stumbled back, covering his eyes from the blinding light. When it faded, he saw her kneeling, weak but awake, her breath trembling. Her voice was soft. "You should not have come back." He swallowed hard. "You were dying. I couldn't just leave you." Her eyes met his, sad and ancient. "You still don't understand what I am." She lifted her wrist. The glowing bands pulsed like veins. "These are not chains of metal," she whispered. "They are made from guilt, from promises your kind broke." Ethan frowned. "My kind? You mean humans?" She nodded slowly. "Long ago, your people mined our world, drained its heart, and left us to rot in the dark. But one human, he swore to protect me. He failed," her voice cracked. "And so I waited. Centuries passed, stars died, and yet the bond remained unbroken until you came." Ethan stepped closer. "You think I'm him? The one who failed?" She looked away. "You carry his mark," he raised his wrist. The glowing symbol still shimmered faintly under his skin, the same as the sigil near her pod. He remembered how it appeared when the door first opened. "What does it mean?" he asked. Her tone was quiet, almost sad. "It means you can free me, but freedom comes at a price." He kneeled beside her, studying the glowing bands. "If these chains feed on energy, maybe I can shut down the source." "No," she shouted suddenly, grabbing his arm. The contact sent a shock through both of them. Heat, memories, flashes of a world burning. He saw cities made of crystal and skyships falling in fire. He saw her, unbound, standing before thousands, crying as the chains wrapped around her wrists for the first time. He gasped, pulling away. What was that? She was shaking. "The mind remembers. It keeps the memories of everyone it traps. Even yours if you stay too long." He took a deep breath. "Then why keep me here? Why call to me at all?" Her voice softened. "Because only your bloodline can end this. You are the last veil, the last to inherit both the mine and my curse." He stared at her, confused. "You mean my family did this to you?" "Yes," she whispered. "But one of them swore to fix it." "He never did." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Then I will." Lyra looked at him in disbelief. "You would risk your life for someone you don't even understand?" He smiled faintly. You're not just someone, you're the only living thing I've found on this planet. I can't just walk away. For the first time, her expression softened. She looked down, almost shy. No human has spoken to me with kindness in 1,000 years. Suddenly, the ground trembled. The walls flickered red. A siren echoed through the tunnels. The mine system had awakened. A mechanical voice boomed through the speakers. Containment breach detected. Subject Lyra no longer stable. Engage failsafe. Ethan's heart raced.
What does that mean?
Lyra's eyes widened in terror. It means the mine will kill everything inside to keep me from escaping. He looked around as heavy doors began to seal shut. He grabbed her hand without thinking. Then we run. She looked down at their joined hands, human and alien skin glowing together where they touched. The chains flickered, weakening for the first time in centuries. She whispered almost to herself, the first human touch in 1,000 years, and it burned so warm. As the chamber began to collapse, they ran through the tunnels, chased by alarms and dust. Behind them, the pod shattered completely, releasing a burst of blue light that followed like a heartbeat. Ethan didn't know where they were going, or what the mine would do next. But one thing was clear, Lyra was free, and the mine didn't want her to be. The tunnels burned with the sound of collapsing metal. Ethan and Lyra ran until their lungs screamed. Dust filled the air. Lights flickered and the walls groaned like something alive. They finally stopped inside an old maintenance chamber. Ethan leaned against the wall, trying to catch his breath. His heart pounded like thunder in his ears. Beside him, Lyra sat quietly, her glowing wrists trembling as the chains pulsed faintly again. He glanced at her.
Are you okay?
She nodded weakly. The bindings. They grow restless when I'm free. They are tied to the mine's heart. It feels my presence. Ethan crouched near her, studying the glowing symbols on her arms. There has to be a way to break them. I've seen tech like this before. Energy restraints used for prisoners. Lyra gave a sad smile. These are not made by hands or wires. They were forged from vows and regret. He frowned. That doesn't make sense. How can chains be made of emotion? She looked at him with eyes full of ancient pain. Because they were made by humans. Ethan stared, confused. My people made those? Yes, she said softly. Your ancestors came here centuries ago. They called themselves the Veil Expedition. They mined the veins of our world, searching for power beyond measure. But they found me instead. Ethan's mind spun. You mean, they captured you? Lyra shook her head slowly. No, I offered myself. My people were dying, and your ancestors promised to help us rebuild if I became the bridge between our worlds. I trusted them. Her voice trembled. But when they feared my power, they betrayed me. They said my energy was too dangerous. So they sealed me here, chained by their guilt and by my own promise not to destroy them. She looked down at her glowing wrists again. The chains are made of that broken promise. They cannot be cut. They must be atoned for. Ethan sat silently. The words hit harder than he expected. His family, his name, was part of this. He remembered his uncle's last message. Once you free her, there's no turning back. He clenched his fists. So that's why I inherited this place. Because I'm supposed to finish what they couldn't. Lyra met his eyes. The Veil bloodline carries the key. Each generation is called here, but none ever dared to face the truth. They came, saw me, and fled. He swallowed hard. And what happens if I succeed? If I break the chains? Her expression darkened. Then the curse ends, but something else awakens. The mine's guardian. The thing they built to keep me imprisoned. A chill ran down Ethan's spine. So even freedom has a price. Yes, she said softly. Everything does. Suddenly, the lights flickered again. The air shimmered like heat waves. Ethan's scanner beeped. An energy surge deep below them. Lyra stood alarmed. It's happening. The mine is trying to reach your memories. My memories? She nodded. It needs your blood to confirm the lineage. It wants to know if you are truly a Veil. Before he could react, the floor beneath them glowed. A blinding flash surrounded them both, and then everything went black. Ethan found himself standing in a massive hall surrounded by figures of light. Humans in old mining suits stood beside towering alien beings, all arguing in silence. The sound came seconds later, echoing like ghosts through time. He saw one human man step forward, the same face as his, but older, eyes full of regret. The man shouted, "Seal her! If she wakes again, the stars will burn." And beside him, Lyra stood, younger, unchained, her face wet with tears. "Then seal me," she said, "but let the universe remember this betrayal." The man hesitated, his hand trembling as he activated the chains. The light wrapped around her wrists, energy shaped by his guilt. He whispered one final word before the vision faded. "Forgive us." Ethan gasped and fell to his knees as the memory vanished. The real tunnel returned, silent and dark. Lyra stood beside him, her expression unreadable. "You saw it," she said quietly. "Now you understand." He looked up, shaken. "That man, he was me. Or someone who looked like me." "He was the first veil," she said softly. "And now you carry his choice." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then I'll make a different one. I won't repeat his mistake." Lyra's silver eyes glimmered, filled with sorrow and something new. Hope. "If you truly mean that, then the mine will test you soon." He frowned. "Test me how?" Her gaze turned toward the dark tunnel ahead. The walls began to hum faintly like breathing. "When the chains weaken," she whispered, "the guardian wakes." Ethan turned toward the sound. Far below, deep in the earth, something massive was moving, and for the first time he realized the mine wasn't just a prison. It was alive. The ground rumbled beneath their feet. Dust fell from the ceiling. The air shimmered with invisible heat, and the walls pulsed faintly like veins carrying light. Ethan's scanner beeped wildly, showing energy readings far beyond anything he'd seen. "The mine," he whispered. "It's waking up." Beside him, Lyra's eyes glowed brighter. "No, it's remembering." They both turned toward the sound echoing through the tunnels, a deep metallic groan, followed by a roar that didn't belong to any machine. It was alive. Something ancient had begun to move. They ran through narrow corridors, lights flickering behind them. Ethan could feel the vibration in his chest like a second heartbeat. Every wall they passed seemed to whisper Vale. "Bali, Bali." He shouted over the noise, "Why is it calling my name?" Lyra answered without looking back. "Because your blood built this place. The mine knows its creator and fears his return." They reached an open chamber, a massive pit surrounded by platforms. Giant cables hung like vines from the ceiling, sparking with energy. In the center of the pit, a colossal figure stirred, a machine made of stone, metal, and bone. It rose slowly, its eyes blazing red light. A voice, cold and deep, echoed around them. "An intruder carries the Veil signature. The chainbearer must not be released." Ethan froze. "That thing, what is it?" "The Guardian," Lyra said quietly. "Created by your ancestors to ensure I never walk free." The machine lifted its arm and the ground cracked open. Blue energy surged toward them like lightning. Ethan grabbed Lyra's hand and pulled her behind a pillar as the blast tore through the chamber. "Can we stop it?" he shouted. Lyra shook her head. "You cannot destroy what your family made, but you can command it, if you remember who you are." Ethan pressed his hand to the glowing mark on his wrist. It pulsed with heat, matching the rhythm of the Guardian's light. He took a deep breath and shouted, "Override command! Authorization Veil!" The Guardian paused. For a moment, the red light in its eyes flickered. Then it turned its gaze directly toward him. Voice pattern accepted. Bloodline confirmed. Command. Corrupted. It moved again, slower this time, as if fighting an unseen force. Lyra stepped forward cautiously. "You can reach it. The mind still listens to you, but you must go deeper, to the heart." "The heart?" he asked. She nodded. "The core that powers both the chains and the Guardian. If you reach it, you can choose, free me or end me forever." Ethan looked at her, stunned. "You're asking me to risk my life again for you." Her expression softened. "You already are." They moved through the ruins of ancient corridors once filled with miners, now silent except for the hum of energy. Strange carvings lined the walls, humans standing beside aliens working together. But every face was scratched out, erased. Ethan touched one of the carvings. "They tried to erase the truth." "Yes," Lyra said softly. "Because they feared unity. They believed power only belonged to one kind of being." Her voice carried sadness, not anger. Ethan glanced at her. In the cold light, her silver skin looked fragile, almost human. He realized she wasn't just a prisoner of chains. She was a prisoner of memories. As they reached the lowest tunnel, the walls glowed brighter, revealing rivers of liquid light flowing beneath transparent stone. The air vibrated like a living heartbeat. In the center of the chamber stood a massive structure, a crystal sphere suspended in midair wrapped in glowing tendrils. The heart of the mine, Lyra whispered. Everything your ancestors built, and everything they destroyed. Ethan stepped closer, but the mark on his wrist burned hot. He winced. It's reacting to me. It should, she said. You're its blood. But it doesn't see you as human. It sees you as the ghost of the man who chained me. He stared at her. Then I'll change its memory. Before she could reply, the Guardian's voice thundered from above. Unauthorized descent detected. Initiating final containment. The walls began to collapse inward. Energy beams shot across the chamber. Ethan shielded Lyra with his body as debris fell around them. He screamed, "How do we stop it?" Her hand found his, glowing brighter than before, by letting it remember what humans can be. She pressed his palm against the core. A surge of light exploded through both of them. Pain, warmth, and visions. He saw her memories flash like lightning. Her people singing in crystal cities. The first human she met smiling as he held her hand. The betrayal, the chains, the silence. And through it all, one message repeated. Not all humans destroy. Some heal. When the light faded, the Guardian stood still, frozen mid-strike. The mind grew quiet. The heartbeat slowed. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. His hand still glowed faintly where it touched the core. Lyra stood beside him, eyes wide. The chains on her wrists flickered, weaker than ever. You did it, she whispered. You made it remember. He looked up at her, exhausted but smiling. Then maybe we can finish this. Lyra nodded slowly, a single tear of silver sliding down her cheek. If the heart forgave us, then maybe the universe will too. The silence after the explosion felt unreal. No alarms, no rumbling walls, only the soft hum of energy flowing through the mind's heart. Ethan opened his eyes slowly. He was still on the ground, the glow of the crystal core pulsing beside him like a living heartbeat. Lyra stood over him, her silver hair drifting in the faint magnetic air. Her wrists still bound but weaker now, flickering like dying embers. She looked down at him with a strange expression, part relief, part sorrow. You touched the core and survived, she whispered. No veil ever did before. Ethan sat up, still dizzy. Guess I'm full of surprises. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, but it vanished quickly. It's not over yet. The chains still feed on my life. If I don't release them soon, the mine will take me again. He stared at the flickering light around her arms. Then tell me what to do. Lyra hesitated, her eyes shining like liquid glass. You can't just remove them. They're bound to the one who forged them, and now that's you. Ethan's chest tightened. You mean if I free you, I take your curse? She nodded softly. Yes, one of us must bear the burden. The energy can't vanish, it must choose a host. He took a step closer. Then let it be me, her eyes widened. You don't even know what that means. You'll live in the same silence I endured. Alone. Forgotten. Lost in the echoes of time. Ethan shook his head slowly. No one deserves to stay in chains. Not you. The core pulsed faster as if reacting to his words. The mark on his wrist burned bright, glowing through his skin. Lyra's chains flared too, their energy syncing with his heartbeat. She whispered, The mine is listening. It's waiting for your decision. He reached out his hand, trembling slightly. Then let's end it, her voice cracked. Ethan, once you touch me, the bond will complete. Our memories will merge. You'll see everything, every pain, every sin, every lost year. He smiled faintly. Then at least I won't be a stranger to you anymore. For a long moment she stared at his face. There was something in her eyes, fear, gratitude, maybe love. Then slowly she placed her hands in his. The instant their skin touched, the world exploded with light. Energy surged through them both, electric and alive. Ethan gasped as his mind filled with visions, not just images, but emotions so strong they nearly broke him. He saw Lyra as a child, her planet covered in oceans of light. He saw humans arriving, smiling at first, then fighting for power. He saw her stand between two worlds, trying to bring peace, only to be punished for believing in unity. He felt her pain, the loneliness of centuries, the silence pressing like stone, the endless waiting in the dark. Tears burned his eyes. He whispered, I'm sorry, for everything they did. Her voice echoed inside his head. And I forgive you. The chains cracked one after another. The energy ripped through the chamber like lightning. Ethan screamed, falling to his knees, but he didn't let go. He held her hands tighter as if his strength alone could pull her free. The last chain shattered with a sound like glass breaking across a galaxy. The entire mine pulsed with white light, and then went silent again. Lyra fell forward, collapsing against him. The glow faded from her body. Ethan caught her gently, his heart racing. "Lyra," he whispered. "Say something." She opened her eyes weakly. "You did it. You freed me," he smiled shakily. "So, you're okay?" Her eyes shimmered with soft silver light. "You don't understand. The chains didn't disappear. They just moved." He looked at his hands and saw faint glowing marks spreading up his arms like veins of light. His breath caught. "They're inside me now." She touched his cheek softly. "The mind chose mercy. You bear what I cannot, but it means you're bound to its heart. You can never leave Rios now." Ethan tried to laugh, but his throat was tight. "Then I guess this planet just got its new caretaker." Lyra smiled weakly. "You sound like him, the first Veil, but you're different. You did not act out of guilt. You acted out of kindness." He looked at her, his voice gentle. "And you're finally free." She nodded slowly, tears glimmering in her silver eyes. "Free because a human cared." The chamber trembled again, but softer this time, like the sigh of something ancient finally at peace. Above them, dust rained down as sunlight broke through cracks in the ceiling. For the first time in centuries, light from the real sun touched the heart of the mine. Ethan stood beside Lyra, his glowing hands fading slowly. She looked at the sunlight with wonder. "I almost forgot how warm it feels," he smiled. "You'll never forget again." But deep in his chest, beneath the warmth, he could feel something else, a slow, rhythmic pulse. The mine's heartbeat, it wasn't gone. It was inside him now. The sunlight breaking through the cracked ceiling didn't last long. The tremors returned, stronger, deeper, and heavier than before. The ground shook beneath Ethan's feet as if the planet itself had taken a breath after centuries of sleep. Lyra's expression changed from wonder to dread. Her silver eyes widened. "No," she whispered. "It's too late. The old ones have awakened." Ethan steadied himself against the wall. "The what?" She turned toward the tunnel. Faint, echoing sounds rose from deep below, thunder mixed with the grinding of metal. "They were built to protect the chains," she said softly. "When I was sealed, my people created guardians to ensure no one would ever free me. They called them the Old Ones, machines made from flesh, stone, and will." Ethan frowned. "You mean those things are still alive after all this time?" "They never lived," Lyra said quietly. "They simply waited." The tunnels began to glow red. From the darkness, shapes emerged. Massive silhouettes, each one twice the height of a man, covered in cracked armor and burning symbols. Their eyes shone with molten light. Every step they took sent ripples through the dust. Ethan's instincts screamed run, but the mine sealed its doors before he could move. The air shimmered with heat and power. The Old Ones surrounded them. A deep, distorted voice filled the chamber. "The Queen is free. Purge the line of Veil. Reset the bond." Ethan stepped forward, his hands glowing faintly with the same light that had once bound Lyra. "Wait. I freed her. She's not your prisoner anymore." The lead guardian tilted its massive head. "The Veil blood cannot command us. The curse is broken. Balance must be restored." The air pulsed violently, shaking the chamber. Lyra grabbed his arm. "Ethan, we have to leave now." He looked at her. "There's nowhere to go." "Then we fight," she whispered. Energy bolts exploded around them. Ethan pushed Lyra behind a fallen pillar, covering her as shards of rock flew across the room. He clenched his glowing hand. The mark on his wrist burned like fire, responding to his anger. A pulse of energy burst from his palm, hitting one of the guardians and sending it crashing to the floor. Lyra stared at him in shock. You used the mine's power." He looked down at his hand, still sparking with light. "I don't know how, I just thought about protecting you." She touched his wrist, her voice trembling. "The heart accepted you completely. You are part of it now." The ground shook again as two more guardians advanced. Ethan stood in front of her, raising his hands. Light rippled through the floor, forming a barrier between them and the machines. But the barrier flickered. It wouldn't hold for long. Lyra stepped beside him. "We can't fight them forever." "Then tell me how to stop them," he shouted. Her voice softened. "The Old Ones obey one truth, the energy of unity. When human and alien will align, they bow. But such unity has never existed." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, breathing hard. Then he reached for her hand again. Then let's make it exist. Their fingers touched and a surge of energy shot through the chamber. Light wrapped around them both, swirling in silver and blue. The Guardians froze mid-step, their eyes dimming slightly as if confused. Ethan felt her heartbeat through the connection. It matched his own. The energy between them grew brighter, pulsing like twin stars. Lyra whispered, "Don't let go no matter what happens." He nodded. Not a chance. The energy exploded outward, waves of light spreading through the entire mine. The Guardians staggered, their armor cracking. The ground beneath them glowed with living symbols. Ethan and Lyra stood at the center, surrounded by a storm of light and wind. The machines roared, but the light only grew stronger. Then, one by one, the Guardians began to kneel. The red light in their eyes faded. The voice that once thundered now spoke softly. Balance. Restored, the Chainbreaker and the Queen. United. The Guardians bowed, lowering their heads in silence. Ethan stared at them in disbelief. "They're obeying us?" Lyra's voice trembled. "Not us. The bond." He looked at her, her silver skin glowing softly, her eyes filled with tears. "Lyra, what happens now?" She smiled faintly, though sadness lingered in her voice. "The Guardians will sleep again." "But your body, it can't hold the power for long. The heart of the mind burns within you. Soon it will need release," Ethan frowned. "And if it doesn't get it?" Her gaze dropped. "Then you'll become what they were, a guardian. Bound forever." He stepped closer, taking her hand again. "Then I guess I'll stay here." Her eyes widened. "No, Ethan, you don't have to." He smiled gently. "If staying means protecting what you are, then it's not a curse. It's a promise." The mind began to quiet again. The red light faded, replaced by a soft golden glow. Above them, the storm outside cleared. Sunlight poured through the cracks, filling the chamber with warmth. Lyra looked up, whispering, "It's beautiful." Ethan watched her in the light and said softly, "So are you." For the first time, the mind's heartbeat was peaceful, steady and calm. But deep inside Ethan's chest, he could still feel its pulse. It wasn't done with him yet. The light of the mind faded into a gentle glow. The old ones stood motionless, their stone bodies cooling after centuries of rage. The tunnels were calm now. No tremors, no alarms, no screams. Only a deep, steady hum, like the breathing of a giant who had finally fallen asleep. Ethan sat against the wall, breathing hard. Every pulse of light beneath his skin slowed a little more, becoming faint and steady. He could feel the mine inside him, its heartbeat, its history, its weight. It wasn't angry anymore, it was content. Lyra knelt beside him, her silver hair glowing faintly in the sunlight pouring through the cracks above. "You held it together," she said softly. "You became the bridge the stars always needed." Ethan smiled weakly. "Feels like the bridge is falling apart." Her expression turned sad. She touched his chest just above the heart. "The power burns you from within. You can't contain it forever." He looked up at her. "Then what do I do?" Her voice trembled. "You let it go." She helped him stand. Together they walked toward the center of the chamber where the heart of the mine once floated. Now the core hung like a dying star, its light dim but still alive. Ethan stared at it. "If I give it back, will it destroy me?" Lyra shook her head. "No, but you will no longer be fully human." He laughed softly. "You say that like I haven't already changed." She smiled faintly. "You changed more than you know." For a moment they stood there in silence, surrounded by the gentle hum of the world being reborn. The Guardians watched quietly, as if waiting for their final command. Lyra turned toward them and whispered something in her own language. The symbols across their armor dimmed. One by one, the old ones knelt and turned to stone once more, sealing themselves back into the planet's bones. The mine's light dimmed, leaving only sunlight and dust. Ethan reached out and placed his glowing hand against the heart. A ripple of warmth spread through his body. He felt the pulse of the planet, the rhythm of the energy, the memory of every life it had touched. He whispered, "It's yours again." The crystal flickered, then flared in brilliant gold light. Energy poured through him like wind through an open gate. He felt weightless, free, and in that moment he heard thousands of voices whisper in unison, "Thank you, human." When the light faded, the chamber looked different, alive. The dead stone shimmered like glass, glowing faintly with veins of blue and green. The mine wasn't a prison anymore. It was a living monument. Ethan collapsed to his knees, exhausted. The glow on his skin slowly faded, leaving only faint marks like silver scars. Lyra caught him before he fell completely, holding him close. "You did it," she whispered. "You gave the heart back." He looked up at her through heavy eyes. "And you're free now." "For real this time." She smiled gently, tears shining like tiny stars. "Because of you." For a long time they stayed there in silence. The sunlight grew warmer. The dust sparkled in the air like golden snow. Ethan felt peace for the first time since stepping on Rios. His body was weak, but his heart was steady. He could feel the planet breathing again, calm, balanced, alive. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "The universe will remember this day, the day a human freed what others feared to touch." He chuckled softly. "Maybe, or maybe it'll just be another story." She looked at him, smiling faintly. "Then I'll make sure it's told." As the light faded toward dusk, they stepped outside. The sky was no longer rust red. It was soft blue with streaks of violet. Flowers grew among the cracked rocks. Streams of glowing water flowed where the dust once lay. Rios was healing. Lyra looked at the horizon in wonder. "It's beautiful. My world is alive again." Ethan smiled, leaning weakly against a stone pillar. "And so are you." She turned to him, her voice soft. "You can't leave this place now. You're part of its heart." He nodded. "I know, but maybe..." "That's okay." Lyra stepped closer. "Then I'll stay too. Someone has to remind you you're still human." He looked at her, surprised, then laughed softly. "You'd give up the stars for this?" Her hand brushed his cheek gently. "I already found my star." They stood together beneath the new sky as the sun dipped low. The mine behind them glowed faintly, pulsing in rhythm with Ethan's heartbeat, a living link between man and alien, past and future. The wind whispered through the canyons, carrying a voice that was not quite human, not quite alien, but something greater. Where there was betrayal, now there is bond. Where there were chains, now there is choice. Lyra looked up at the endless sky. "A new dawn," she said softly. Ethan smiled, watching the first stars appear. "Yeah," he whispered. "A human and an alien, finally on the same side." And as the light faded from the horizon, the mine's gentle hum continued, a heartbeat that would never stop again.